Continue with unit 6, which is factoring. So number 1. So -4, -7, and 2. First off, you might want to put these in order. So one with the largest exponent goes first. Plus 2m to the third minus 4m squared. So, does 7, 2, and 4 have anything in common? And the answer is no. 7 is a prime, and so is 2. So, only thing you can take out, because you're only factoring out the greatest common factor, is m's. So this one has 4, 3, and 2. So we can take out 2. And if all 3 numbers were negative, you could take out a negative. And typically, when the largest number is negative, you can still take out the negative. Because when you're factoring it completely, you want your first term to be positive. But we're not factoring completely. We're just taking out the greatest common factor, which is m squared. So when you take out the greatest common factor, you are dividing each term by the whatever you're taking out. So when you divide by m squared, you subtract. So m to the 4th divided by m squared is m squared. And the coefficients stay the same because we're not taking out any numbers. So -7 m squared. 3 minus 2 is 1, so 1m. So plus 2m minus 4, and you're taking out the m squared, so you don't have 1. So if you distributed, you should end up with the same answer. And if I put this in y1, my answer in y2, your tables will match. Number 5. We have 8, 10, and 25. And again, they do not share a factor. So you take the first and last one and you multiply. 8 times 25 is -200. And then you use your calculator to find your factors. So y equals -200. And actually leave off the fact that it's negative. So y equals 200 divided by x. And this will show all the numbers that add to or multiply to equal 200. And so you're looking for whatever multiplies to equal 200 and adds to give you, and subtracts, sorry, -200 subtracts to give you 10. And of course I can do that without the calculator, but it would be 10 and 20. So 20 minus 10 gives you 10. So your factors are 20 and 10. One of them has to be negative. So, oops. And hold on 1 second. So because we need it to add to equal 10, so your larger number needs to be positive and your smaller number will be negative. Then you take the number that's out front that you multiplied, 8, and you divide and reduce. So 20 over 8 reduces, first I look at it as 10 and 4, and then 10 and 4 reduces to 5 and 2. So that one ends up being 5 and 2. And again, 2 goes in there, and 2 goes in there 4 times. So -5 and 4. So you take the denominator, it goes out front. So your answer ends up being 2b plus the top number and 4b minus 5. And again, to double check, 2b times 4b equals 8b squared, and 5 times -5 gives you that -25. That's how you can check and make sure that your numbers are correct. It would not confirm that you had the negative on the correct number. Number 8 is also factoring. And this one we're factoring completely. So first thing you check and see if we can take something out. So negative 8m to the 4th. And actually I did that on the first video. 7 is unit 7, so is 8. I'll come back to those. 10. So area of a rectangle is length times width. So if you're given the area and you're trying to find one of the sides, you're simply going to divide either the length or the width. It doesn't matter. So we're going to take this and we're going to divide it by 9x plus 5. So shortcut. Because all the problems that we are doing does not have a remainder, then it's simply 18x squared divided by 9x, which is 2x. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. So if I go to my calculator, y equals, put in the problem, 18x squared minus 8x minus 10. What I got is my answer, 2x minus 2. If I graph it, it's going to go through the x-intercept of one of the x-intercepts of the parabola. So there it is right there. And then if I put the other side of it, which is what I divided by 9x plus 5, it's going to go through the other side. And of course, if I multiplied them, so putting parentheses, second insert, parentheses, 2x minus 2 times 9x plus 5. Clear that one. The tables should be the same. Okay, so the other method, so if you have a remainder, and of course in Algebra 2, when you're dividing, you are going to end up doing long division or synthetic division. We've learned the long division. So you have 18x squared minus 8x minus 10. And make it where they can see it, and make it where you can see it. There we go. Okay. And we are dividing by the 9x plus 5. Okay, so again, 18 divided by 9 is still 2x, and you do 2x times 9x is 18x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x, and then just like a regular long division, when the next step is you subtract. Where students make a mistake is they will subtract here, but not on the second term. If this is a negative, make sure that you change the sign. So it's positive, so we're going to make it subtraction. So negative 8 minus 10 is negative 18x, and then bring the negative 10 down. And then negative 18 divided by negative 2, or divided by 2, is negative 9. Or excuse me. Sorry, mark that off. So negative 18 divided by 9x is negative 2. There we go. So negative 2 times 9x is negative 18x. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Again, change the signs, and your remainder is 0. And that's why the shortcut works on this division. So again, our answer was just 2x minus 2. So shortcut and long way. And then the rest of the problems are the new unit except for problem 18. Problem 18 is adding or subtracting monomills or binomials or trinomials. So this is a triangle. You're given the perimeter. So if you're giving 2 out of the 3 sides, you're going to subtract the 2 from the perimeter. So start by writing the perimeter down. And the main thing is to remember, and this is from Unit 1, is that when you add or subtract, you do not change the variable or the exponent. So if either one of these were negative, they would turn into positives, but both of them are positive. So you can add these two together initially. And so 10D plus 6D is 16D, and 14 plus 4 is 18, and then subtract to get that third side. Minus 18. So, and you can only combine like terms. So these have D's, and this is your constant. So 19 minus 16 is 3. You do not put D in the calculator. 5 minus 18 is negative 13. What you could do is, in y equals, it's the only place you can put your variable, you can do 19D plus 5 minus, and then in parentheses, and of course put x instead of d, do 6x plus 4 plus 10x plus 14, and it should equal 3d minus 13. So again, in y equals, I'll just show you. And of course I would do this for test purposes to make sure I'd get 100 if I wasn't sure. So you take the perimeter, 19x plus 5 minus the two sides, so 6x plus 4, and so plus 10x plus 14, close it, and it should equal our answer, which is 3x minus 13. So second table, the tables match, so my answer is correct. If it doesn't, then I've done something wrong. So that works as long as you have one variable. So if you have to add the 3 sides, you add the 3 sides on your calculator and put plus in between all of them, and it should equal your answer. So as long as you're simplifying with one variable, you can check it with your calculator. So if you get it wrong, that's a choice. Okay, so the rest of it is new, is this unit. And I'm going to start with what we've done the latest, which is power of powers for my students who were absent or didn't have class on yesterday. So let's see, number 16. So 16, we are just dividing, so don't overthink the word problem. How many more emails did company Q have than K? So we're just dividing. So 3.63 times 10 to the third divided by 1.21 times 10 squared. So those of you who were absent yesterday, you two, then I'm going over what we went over yesterday. So if you want to pay attention for a second. So 3.63 divided by 1.21. So these are just numbers. So you're going to divide. So what do y'all get? Shouldn't. 3.63 divided by 1.21 is just 3. Yeah, because that's division. Now, when you have exponents, the rule of your exponents, when you divide you subtract. So you're going to take these two numbers and you're going to subtract them. So 3 minus 2 is 1. So it's going to be times 10 to the 1. And they want to see the 1. So it tells you that you can write your answer as an integer or scientific notation, but because it's tested as scientific notation, I want you to write it in scientific notation. So even though on most of the other problems you don't have to put the 1 as the exponent, but in scientific notation you do. So you have to keep the 1. And let's see. And then 18, the last one, is also what we covered yesterday. So 16 to the 3/2. First off, the bottom number is your root, and the 3 is what you raise it. So what's the square root of 16? So your perfect squares are 4, yeah, 4, and then 9 and 16. So the square root of 16 is 4, and then you cube 4. So 4 times 4 is 16, and then 4 times 16 I think is 64. Yeah, so 16, and use the caret symbol over division, and raise it to the 3/2. 3 divided by 2. And press enter, and that gives you that 64. So you take the number and raise it to the outside power. So then the outside power goes to both of them, but the 3/4 here only goes to the x. So this is going to be 64 is the number, and then x to the 3/4 to the 3/2, when you raise it to a power, you multiply. So you have 3/4 times 3/2. So have your x. 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 4 is 8. And if what you ended up with is reducible, you need to reduce. And so you end up with 64x to the 9/8. Okay, so that's what we did yesterday. So we will continue with the rest of the problems. So number 7, and these again are just examples of the problems that I have dropped to y'all. So you'll have different problems, different numbers, but the same types. So 2 times 4, again, when it's a power to power, you multiply, and you get x to the 8th. So what you might want to have out is your formula chart. So you have one side that has the properties of exponents, and the other side has the star formula chart. And get used to using the star formula chart. And so your properties of power. So power, you multiply. Quotient, which is division. So when you divide, you subtract. When you multiply, you add. And when it's negative, you move it opposite of where it's at. So this is negative on top, so you move it to the bottom. Okay, so then number 9, we are dividing. So when you have the same thing on top as you do bottom, you can cancel those out. Remember that each number, each letter is just a separate problem. And then 4 over 28, of course, your calculator can reduce for you, but 4 goes into 4 one time and into 28 7. Or if you see 2 first, you end up with 2 over 14, which again reduces to 1/7. And m squared has no friends, so 1 over 7 m squared. So if you end up with nothing on top, you have to include the 1. Number 11, if you've got 2 of something, combine those first. So that is +2 and positive 5 for the u. So 2 plus 5, when you multiply, you add, is 7. And then when you raise it to a power, you multiply. So 7 times 5 is 35. So that's u to the 7th. It's the exponent. Try again. U to the 7th. There we go. So you have u to the 35th and x to the 5th, because 5 times 1 is 5. Number 12. This type of problem has been on STAR multiple times, so I would expect to see it. And again, when you see a division and you're dividing a fraction, you have to flip this fraction and multiply. So you can reduce up and down, but you can't cross reduce until you have flipped it and multiplied. So z to the 3rd and z to the negative 3, if it's negative on the top, it will be positive. I mean, if it's negative on the bottom, it would be positive on the top. So z to the negative 3 can come up and add to the 3 that's already there. Negative 3 is will be your largest number when you change it. So this one can go to the bottom and it'll turn positive. So negative 2 plus 3 is d to the just d. So those end up going away. So we have negative 5 z to the 6th divided by 2 times, and we're going to flip those, and 6 divided by 3 is actually 2, negative 2. So when we flip it, that negative 2 ends up on the bottom, and nothing ends up on top except for the 3D. And so you have, let's see, negative, now we can multiply, and we don't have any like terms anymore. So negative 15 z to the 6th d over negative 4. So negative and negative give you a positive. So 15/4. It's fun. And come back, I will do that problem a little bit different. I will go ahead and flip and multiply and then reduce. So if this reducing beforehand is causing you grief, I'll come back to that problem. Okay, number 14. We have y has no friends, so it just stays y to the 4th. When you multiply, you add. So 2 plus another z is 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0, and anything to the 0 power equals 1. So that makes it gone. So and if you forget, you can do 8 to the 0 power, or any number to the 0 power, and you will discover that you'll get 1, because basically it cancels out. Okay, 15. This one is also unit 6, and we are multiplying. So 7 times negative 3, or it could be an exponential, it could be either, both. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21, and when you multiply, you add the exponents. So 2 plus 3 is 5. 17, negative 14 over 20. So that reduces to negative 7 over 10. And there's no, well, these two are alike, the m's. So m to the negative 1, move it down and add it to the 5. So 5 plus 1 is 6. And p to the negative 4th, again, if it's negative on top, it'll be positive on the bottom. So the only thing that's on the top is the negative 7. And again, your negative either goes out front or on top. And last but not least, 18 we've already done. And so let's go back and look at 12 again. So, and let's see if I can get the original 12. Give me 1 second. Let's see, and I also didn't get 6 done either. Yep. So let's do number 12 again, and then I'll go back and do 6. I knew I should have had a multiplication. So 12 again. So I'm gonna leave it as it is. Actually move that one up. So negative 5 z to the third and another z to the third over 2 times, and just flip them. Negative 3d to the negative 2 over 6d to the negative 3. So first off, calculator. You can take the original whole numbers, the negative 5, 2 divided by 6 over negative 3. So alpha x, get a fraction. And have negative 5 over 2 divided by alpha x, 6 over negative 3. Press enter and it will reduce it for you. And that's what we got earlier. Actually, we ended up with 15 over 4. So we got negative 2, which should have been on the bottom. And 5 over 2. So all my reducing, I ended up messing up the numbers. So if you have negative, so alpha x, negative 5 over 2 times negative 3 over, and second alpha, negative 3 over 6. So you flip it and multiply and get rid of that 3. And you should end up with 5/4 also. So the numbers end up being 5/4. So it might be a good idea to change those first. So now the numbers are gone, and negative and negative is a positive. So those are gone. Those are dealt with. So your z's, you've got 2 of them. 2, 3 plus 3 is z to the third. That's on top. And then the negative d to the negative 2 and negative 3, again, move that d up. It's positive. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So d on top. And so when I flipped it, I ended up keeping one of the numbers that I shouldn't have, which I ended up keeping a 3, and I should have just kept the 2, because 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. So on the original problem, I should not have had that 3 any longer, because 6 divided by negative 3 was the negative 2, and which gets rid of the 1. Okay, so number 11 above it, actually, next page, first page, number 6. So you do these using the box method. You end up with 4 terms. So negative x and plus 6, we're going to multiply. So your format, this is x squared, x, x, and then no x. So negative x times 3x is negative 3x squared. 3x times 6 is 18x. 6 times negative x is negative 6x, and 6 times 6 is 36. So you end up with negative 3x squared. 18 minus 6, you combine diagonally, is 12x plus 36. So if you put this in y1, this in y2, your tables will match. And those are 18 examples of what is going to be on your quiz.